So this one is proving properties of a parallelogram. My essential question is, how do I prove properties of a parallelogram? Could be, it doesn't have to be. Okay, so different properties about parallelograms. I have that opposite sides are parallel. Not yet. Okay. Then I have that opposite sides are congruent. What? I also have opposite angles are congruent. Yeah. I don't have a life. Okay, I have adjacent angles are supplementary. So that means that the two that touch all equal 180. And the last one is diagonals bisect each other. So that means if I drew the two crossy lines from end to end, it cut them in half. Why would you think of that? Yeah, I think it hurt. I think you'd feel it until you like pass out, and then you wouldn't feel it. What? Huh? No, I don't think about that. Both of those sound terrible. Moving on. Let's talk about properties of rhombuses. Sorry. So, we know it has 4 congruent sides. What? Right. Okay. I also have diagonals or perpendicular. See ya. You too. Okay, and then I also have diagonals bisect angles. What do those look like? I think so. No, I don't think I've had that one. Okay. Moving on to rectangles. The first thing we know about them is they have 4 right angles.
Yeah, this brother watched it. I mean, if you like it, right? You like to do it?
For the most part, except for when the boys in the back keep talking. Okay. And then the last thing about rectangles is diagonals are congruent. Pretend I can draw from corner to corner. And then since I'm doing it in pen, it's like I can't really fix it, yeah. What? Okay, so for squares, they have everything above is true for them. Do you have it like every other week?
No. I'll be having that 1 week yes, 1 week no.
Why? And so is passing all your classes. You have this class second hour. You should have eaten breakfast.
I mean, you do have to.
Okay, so then slope formula, remember, is rise over run. Parallel lines have the same slope. I forgot to know. And perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. That's not on the screen. Okay, so remember the distance formula is d equals x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Or you can also use, if it's a triangle, you can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
I haven't even finished the first page.
This is it. Once you finish copying it, we're done with the first side.
You're funny.
I try to be. Can I move on? So next page. It wants me to prove that this is a parallelogram. It tells me it's a parallelogram. It wants me to prove opposite sides are congruent. So first I'm going to plot it. I know, it tells us it's a parallelogram. We just need to prove that opposite sides are congruent. Okay, so I want to start off with my given. PQRS is a parallelogram. Okay, then what I want to do is I want to count my side lengths since I need to prove that they're congruent. I can count PQ. How long is PQ? How long is this? How many squares? And SR? Also 6. So PQ and SR are the same. And this is by the distance formula. Whenever I find a side length, I say the distance formula no matter how I actually found the side length. Because they really just, you know, you ever meet one of those like annoying toddlers that's like, why? Yeah. Well, you gotta be precise. So now I gotta find my length of S to P and Q to R. So I can use the Pythagorean theorem here because that makes a triangle. It's going up 3 over 1. So I'm going to do 3 squared plus 1 squared equals C squared. A little bit. What is 3 squared? 9. 1 squared is 1. What's 9 plus 1? No, I need to take the square root. What's... Does it round? What's the number after the 1? Yeah, so it's going to be 3.2. What?
What happened?
We took the square root. I don't have to find the slope. I could have used the distance formula. Like the actual distance formula. But since I had it on the graph, it was easy enough to count. Okay, then I can say PS equals QR, which equals 3.2 by the distance formula. Okay, now that I know that I have those two side lengths that are congruent, I mean that are the same, I can say they're congruent. So I can say PQ is congruent to SR and PS is congruent to QR. This is definition of congruent. Thanks. Can I move on? This one's done. Okay, can I move on now? Okay, so I am going to start off, this one's already drawn for me, so I'm going to start off with my statements and reasons. So what did they tell me? What was my given? And that was given to me.
It's almost time to go.
No. Like almost a whole hour.
We watched 2 movies.
No, what kind of movies do you know that you can watch? No.
You have one?
Okay, so over here I'm going to draw my diagonals. I'm going to label the point where they cross down. Okay, so remember how this shape looks, because I'm going to spin the paper 180 degrees. Is it facing the same way as your paper? Ignoring the letters, is it facing, yeah? So I can say angle Q is congruent to angle S. That's not an S. And angle P is congruent to angle R. No, not congruent, equal. And this is by the 180 degree rotation around the point M. Okay, but you can use reasoning with your statements when you're arguing. You could have done that too, yeah. Okay, then I can say angle Q is congruent to angle S. Bless you. Angle P is congruent to angle R by definition of congruent. Mm-mm.
One.
Why would I have it?
I don't know.
That'd be weird. Can I move on? I'm not even YouTube famous. I've got like 32 followers.
Good morning, everyone. This singer every day.
Oh. Okay, can I move on to number 3 now? Okay. So this one is telling me it's a parallelogram. This time I need to prove that adjacent angles are supplementary. Yeah. Okay, so I want to start off with what in my proof? Given. Okay, so if I look at this parallelogram, the parallelogram, the shapes we've been talking about for 2 weeks, so notice I have that one side of parallel lines, and then over here, I have this line. What does this kind of look like? What does it remind you of? Hopefully something. No. No, I mean, it should remind you of a parallelogram. But what are the things I highlighted remind you of? The parallel lines and transversals at the beginning of the year? So I can use that to say that these two are supplementary, but why? What was that type of angle pair? They're not vertical. No. You need to remember this. You're going to take the AZ Merit soon, and it's going to be on there. The AZ Merit is not a grade, but if you do well, it can change your grade up a letter. No. Well, you need to take it. Everyone has to take it.
What if you guess on it? That'll be bad.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Why?
Because then it looks bad on me, like I didn't teach you anything.
Why you say we could guess? That's not for me.
I felt so bad for you.
When I don't try,
Okay, so what kind of angles are these? Nobody remembers this type of angle pair? No? Okay, so they're inside the purple. Something interior. Thank you. Starts with a C. No. Consecutive interior. You have to review them. That's why we're going through this again. I'm not allowed to. Yes. The final, yes. No, just for this semester. Because the final's only over this semester. Okay, any other questions on these two proofs? Why? If you get your grade up to a 75% and you take the final and you absolutely get a 0, you still pass with a D. Mm-hmm. You what? You didn't fail with a 0? If you get your before you take the final, if your class grade is a 75%, if you 75, exactly 75, and you get a 0 on the final, you will get a 60 in the class, which is a D. Obviously, you're not going to get a 0 on the final. You should get something right. I feel like you have to try to get a 0.
I'll try. You have to like know the answer. Just post it out this wrong one.
Yeah, because I think it's multiple choice again.
So the
Whatever.
only way to get a 0
Last semester was multiple choice, right? Yeah, it's
the
just
only way to get a 0 would literally if you like knew the answer.
you knew the answers and you're trying, or you submit it blank.
Okay, so I got
Okay, can I move on? Okay. So this one is telling me it's a parallelogram, and it's saying I need to prove that diagonals bisect each other. It's a lot of time. Are you in Native American Club? Or no? Really? No, they do, because they were selling the fried bread the other week. Wow. Huh? After we finish this packet, we're done. So once we get through this packet, no. After we finish this packet, you can work on missing words. Oh. I do have Disney Plus. I know it's Friday. I need to get through these notes. Chance, why are you walking around the room? Go sit back down. Okay, so what do I start off with? So I start off with PQRS as a parallelogram. A parallelogram. That sucks. Okay, so I'm going to label this point M again. That's an M. That looks really bad. Two people who have no missing assignments.
Wait, is that me?
I don't know. I'm not looking at the grade book. Yeah.
I think it's me. No. I think it's
Yeah, it could be two people, so.
Because the only thing I haven't done is like, oh no, I am.
So, same thing as before. If I rotate this picture 180 degrees around, it's a little bit harder since it's an actual piece of paper. But if I rotate it, these line segments overlap each other. So I can say QM is congruent to MS, and RM is congruent to MP. Equal, not congruent again. You could also prove this with triangle properties. Music while I'm teaching. That would be so distracting. Find what? It might be in the notes binder or on the wall, depending on how old it is. Okay, so now that I know the two things are equal, I can say that they're congruent because that's the definition of congruent. Thank you. Uh-huh. That's the second one. Third one is definition of congruent. So, now I've said that this is congruent to this, and this is congruent to this. So now I can end with QS bisects PR. And that's definition of bisector. Can I move on? Hold on. Maybe I will sneeze. Okay. So this one I need to go plot it. Plot the graph. Nope. It's a rhombus. I need to prove that my diagonals are perpendicular. No. Okay, I was freezing. Okay, what do I want to start off with? Okay, so I have PQRS as a rhombus. And that was given to me. Okay, so I want to prove that my diagonal lines are perpendicular. What are my slopes of my two lines? So what's my slope of, let's do QS first. How many is it going up and over? I started with QS.
4.
It's going over 4, but up 0. So 0 over 4 is just 0. Okay, what about my other one, PR? It's going up 8, but over 0. So, no. Remember when I have 0 on the bottom, it's undefined. You can't have 0 on the bottom. So this is from the slope formula. I can still slope.
done?
No, or almost done with this one. Then I can say PR is perpendicular to QS by definition of perpendicular lines. Because the opposite reciprocal of 0 is undefined. In May. Almost 2 months, because tomorrow's the last day of February.
So we have like 3 months left.
Like 2.5 pretty much. Because it's almost spring break too. It's a little. Okay, can I move on? So the next one, I have to first plot the points. So really? She counting down, or is she just? Oh, dang. Okay, this one is wanting me to prove that diagonals bisect angles. It's a rhombus. The given tells us that. Okay. So this one I want to start off with my given, which is, yep. Okay, so I extended my diagonal on this one to be a line. Notice, if I reflect across these lines, S and Q would be the same angle. And that line is x equals 3. Then I can do the same thing for over here. I'm not watching, I'm looking at the answer key. It's not cheating. I don't want angles S and Q, by the way. I want angle RPS and RPQ. So I want the little tiny angles, this one and this one. And then I want angle PQS and angle RQS. This one is a reflection across the line y equals 1. then I can say that those two sets are congruent. Sometimes. No. I don't have to take things down unless I don't have the same room next year. And then, like, take down a little bit of stuff so they can clean the walls. This would be definition of congruent. And then I could say diagonals bisect angles. Definition of bisector. Yeah, it didn't. Pen's stupid. We're done with this one, yeah. Okay, can I move on? Okay, this is the last one. So I want to plot my points. This one is a rectangle, and it wants me to prove that my diagonals are congruent. So these are these ones. Yeah. ABCD is a rectangle. And that was given. Okay. Then I just want to prove that the red lines I drew are congruent. I can use a few things to prove they're congruent. What do you want me to do? No, I mean, how do you want me to start this? How would I prove those red lines are congruent? Slope won't tell me they're congruent, but the distance formula will. Okay, so this one is a height of 4, and how far apart are these? D to C. 7. So I can use the Pythagorean theorem, and then I can do the same thing over here with 4 and 7 for the other top triangle. So I have 4 squared plus 7 squared equals C squared. $65. Okay. Then I have, what's the square root of 65? That's why I was checking my phone. 8.6 or so 8.1 is fine if I round. Okay. So then I could say AC equals BD equals 8.1 by the distance formula. Remember, I say that anytime I find a link. Hello? Yes. Okay. Yes. She just asked me if someone was here and then went on a long story. So now that I have that they are equal, I can say they're congruent. By definition of congruent, and then I just need to, I drew my line too long. Diagonals are congruent. Questions here?